All right, we'll go ahead and get started with the group lesson. Today it's going to be on the time and sales. You'll hear us talk about the time and sales a lot, as well as the level 2. We use them both kind of in conjunction together. So we're going to go over what the time and sales is, what it does, and why we use it. So as always, we'll go through the lesson and then I'll open it up. If you guys have any questions, we'll answer those. And then as always, this is going to be recorded. So you can go back and watch this if you want to see anything specific on my screen. So the time and sales, I use Thinkorswim. I know a lot of you guys do as well, but whatever platform you're on, you're going to have time and sales. For me on TOS, and for you guys if you're using Jason's setup, it's going to be in the top right, and it's going to be those basically 3 columns that have the time, the price, and the size. So
LITB.
what the time and sales is it shows orders that have been filled. So these are things that have already taken place. So these orders have been executed on either the buy side or the sell side. So you might hear it referred to as the tape as well. So if we're talking about the tape, we're talking about the time and sales. So the green represents the buys, and then the red represents the sells. So every order has a time, a price, and a size. So if it's green, it was on the buy side. If it's red, it was on the sell side. Just like the level 2, we don't really know, unfortunately, if those sell sides are longs that are selling their long position, or if it's people entering short positions. We'll get into that a little more in other lessons, but just know that green is buy and red is sell. So, and the size of it is the exact value that's represented in the size column for the number. So don't get confused when we're talking about time and sales with level 2. So level 2, as you guys know, whatever it shows up on the level 2, you have to add 2 zeros to get that actual value. But with time and sales, the actual number it shows is the actual number that was filled. So that order size is represented by the number. You can filter this if you want to show orders of certain sizes. So I usually don't filter them. Lately, when I first started, I did, just to see larger orders, but it doesn't really matter. It's just going to be more or less things popping up on your time and sales. The price of the stock can dictate how big or small the size should be. So bigger stocks, meaning more expensive, you can see lower value sizes. So you can actually change that to, filter whatever size you want. And then stocks that are cheap, you can make it only read bigger order sizes, because if it's a $2 stock, you don't really care if someone's buying 10 shares, 100 shares, whatever. So you can filter that if you want.
MNMD.
And
SHPH.
all you have to do, again, if you're on TOS, it's probably going to be the same on everyone, but you just left click on size and you can filter it. You can do a custom size filter, or you can show, greater or equal to 500 or 1,000 or 5,000, whatever you want. So you can filter that to show every single share as 1, or you can filter it to only show orders that are 100, 200, however many shares you want to see. So again, the price of the stock usually dictates whether you want to do that or not. We trade a lot of small cap stuff, so I just leave it to show every order. This is great for seeing orders that have been filled while you're in a stock. So again, this is stuff that's already happened. So unlike the level 2 where you see things that are in place and waiting to be filled, the time and sales are orders that have already been executed. So using these together is very important. Using level 2 and the time and sales together, along with all our other trading strategies and indicators and things that we use, is great. But just remember, the time and sales are orders that have already been executed. So a lot of good ways to use this in real time is for seeing orders that have been filled, like while you're in a stock. So let's say this morning you are in on tops and you see on the time and sales the entire tape is just full of red. Now you probably could have seen this couple seconds before you actually see it on the time and sales if you're watching the level 2 or you're watching the ladder, because you're going to see sales stack up. But if you start to see the time and sales just flash, we'll talk about, we see it flashing green or flashing red. That usually means that basically the entire tape is just taken up by red or green. So if you see that and you're in a stock, let's say, and you see it flashing red, again, you should probably already know because you're looking at the level 2 or the ladder, but that could be an indicator that sales are starting to stack up. A lot of seller pressure is coming in, a lot of sell volume, and that could be your cue to either take profit or get out or what have you. Again, using all these things in conjunction with each other is definitely helpful, but that's a good representation of the time in sales, how you can use it if you're in a stock. So another good way to use it is for halt plays. So you can see the exact time that it's supposed to resume based on the last order that was executed. So a lot of times people will be watching stock and it gets halted, and you'll hear a lot of questions like, when is it going to resume? Like, how do you know that? Things like that. So it's simple. You just look at the time in sales and you look at the last order executed. So like when tops halted at 9:30 and 27 seconds. So usually the initial halt, we're always going to assume it's 5 minutes. So you just add 5 minutes to that. So if it was a 5-minute halt, which it wasn't, it would have resumed at 9:35:27, and that's 9 being obviously the hour, 35 the minute, and 27 being the seconds. And then you just continue to add 5 minutes as it doesn't unhalt. So if it's 5, 10, 15, you just add that to the last time on the time in sales for the order that was executed. And then another little trick, if you are watching the stock that's halted and you haven't switched to another stock, when the time in sales clears, that's usually a good indicator that it's going to resume in this next whatever 5-minute interval you're in. So that's a cool little trick you can look at. If your time in sales clears, this is probably about to resume. And again, I just want to stress these orders have already been executed. So what you're seeing has already happened. You want to keep an eye on the level 2 to see the orders before they hit the time in sales. And again, those show orders that are waiting to be executed. And we've done and we'll do more, I'm sure, lessons on the level 2. And again, I want to stress that using these in conjunction with each other as well as our other, parts of our trading plan is very important. But I want to touch specifically on the time and sales because it is important and it is something that we use every day. So just use them both together. That can be a great tool for being a successful trader. So it's good also when you see a stock fly up or down, you can come back to the time and sales. Like let's say you were watching tops, and whether you're in it or not, you saw the price fly up or fly down. It went really quick. A lot of orders were executed. The time and sales, if you want, you can even go back and see like what made that stock do that. Why did that stock move such heavily in one direction or the other? You can actually scroll back through the time and sales and see that whether it was a large amount being a bunch of orders or one singular large order that kind of moved that stock. So you can kind of go back and see and get an idea for, different float stocks. You can see kind of what moves them, because obviously a high momentum gapper, a cheap, low float stock it's going to take a lot less to move it than, vice versa, a more expensive stock, a high float, things like that. So it's just little stuff like that you can learn. We're getting a little more advanced into doing things like that. But the time of sales is very useful, both in real time and to kind of go back and look at it. It's good for plays if you're in, good for halt plays, and it's good for just seeing what made a stock move up or down. So that's kind of an overview of what the time and sales is, why we use it, how you can use it. Does anyone have any questions on the time and sales? Again, you can type it in the chat, you can raise your hand, or you can DM me.
VAPO. AMC.
Trader says, wait, what was the time and sales do right before? So not always, but I would say probably around 85% of the time. And it's important to note, it's usually if you don't flip to another stock. So let's say you're watching tops this morning and it halted. If you remember, that was more than a 5-minute halt, and it ended up being a 10-minute halt. So if you're watching tops, 5 minutes passes and you're like, oh, it's a 10-minute halt. If you haven't moved to a different stock and your time and sales clears, means that everything goes away on time and sales. It's just black. You don't see anything. That's usually a good indicator that, okay, now it's about to resume. So in that case, it would have been a 10-minute halt. If the time and sales clears after, 8-9 minutes, that's usually a good indicator that it's about to resume. So yeah, it is cool. And if we're like live trading and you'll probably hear us say something like that, like time and sales just cleared, something like that.
BHC.
That's why we
AMC.
kind of voice that. That way, if anyone flipped through stocks or they didn't see it or whatever, then that's just another little nugget you can use for knowing when something's going to resume.
PAFOR.
Does anyone else have any questions about time and sales or kind of anything we looked at today? Anything trading wise? Anything you saw this week? Any questions you have? Feel free to ask those.
BHC.
And again, I'm on Thinkorswim, so my time in sales is top right. I have it pretty small. It's next to my ladder, and I like my ladder to be bigger. You don't have to really have it, drug out here. You can shrink it to be like pretty small because all you need to see really is, again, the time, the price, and the size. So, all right, if there's no more questions, again, that was just an overview of what the time in sales is, what it does, how to use it, why we use it. If you have any questions about time and sales or anything, again, that you think of, feel free to DM, me, Jason Dagan. We can definitely answer your questions. I appreciate you guys showing up. I know some of these lessons will be, pretty simple. Some of them will be a little repetitive, but again, we're ever growing and we always have newer people coming in. So we constantly want to be putting out, useful information for both of them as well as for, people who have been in here for a little bit. So even if you learned something small like McTrader, learning that if it clears, then could be an indicator it's going to resume. Just little stuff like that. Hopefully you guys get at least something out of these lessons. I appreciate you guys showing up. As always, I value my time, and I know you value yours. It's been a tough year for me specifically in the market. I know a lot of people have struggled as well, but these are the times we have to, be steadfast and keep showing up and keep booting up that PC and keep looking at these charts and just keep learning because whether it's a month from now or a year from now, the market will change. It is cyclical. So one day this is going to just reverse and go in the opposite direction. And, as long as you show up every day, you're going to be here for that. And then you're going to reap the reward. So keep showing up. I'm proud of you guys. Just keep trading, keep your head up, keep a positive mindset, and keep bringing your questions, whether it's in the group lesson or through DMs. Just keep learning every chance you get. So thanks again, guys, and I will talk to you guys in the morning. Have a great day.